Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, yWhales, wherever you are. It is, I think Bitcoin just took a dump today at by about 2 grand. So I think we're sitting right around 37 last I looked. And it is, what month is this? January or just February 2nd, to kind of help phrase, and we're doing this a little bit more to help phrase, when and where we are in the world with the projects that are launching. As another disclosure, I have not invested in this project as of yet, but we will absolutely wait and see and hold any opinions until after the interview is fully done. But I want to go ahead and start off. We have a 3-panel member this time, so I am certainly outnumbered. Let's go ahead and start with Dan. Dan, so talk to me about kind of who you are, how you got into the Web3 crypto game, and what's kind of kept your attention over the time.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Jay. And again, really appreciate you having us on here. Excited. This is my first podcast, by the way, so I don't know if that
Mine too.
dates me in any way, but I'm excited to be here, and hopefully we get through it okay. So my name is Dan Goikhman. I've been an entrepreneur really at the intersection of kind of emerging media, monetization, and distribution for the last 15, 16 years. Most of that time actually with my partner, Krish, who's joining us as well here today, and you'll hear from him in a second. How we got here today is a little bit of a long and windy road, but our kind of, first real entrepreneurial venture together was back in 2007, 2008, a company called Mojiva, which was a pioneering kind of mobile ad tech company in the first wave. We got very fortunate to have started it just before they announced the first iPhone in 2008. So our first pitch deck for that company was a picture of a old Sony phone with a really ugly TGI Fridays banner on it, thinking that mobile advertising was going to be a thing that materialized. We had no idea what it was going to be at the time, just that we felt it was going to be big. And we were fortunate to have built that business over the years into something that was pretty scalable and raised venture capital and ultimately sold in 2014 to a company called PubMatic, which was just an incredible run and ride. And from there on, kind of, we've continued to work together. My background has always been on the kind of business development strategy side of things, revenue side of things. But from the point on, kind of after Mojiva and Motion Mobile, which are our mobile ad companies, we had a couple of smaller projects that we incubated over the years, but in 2014, 15, we started a company called Unreal, which was a direct-to-consumer, video publishing platform that felt that there was going to be an incredible kind of opportunity for content owners to do their own distribution. So that's kind of how we got into the video space, and obviously saw the rise of kind of cord cutting accelerating around the world, and so spent some time building that business. Which was acquired and then more recently acquired again. We could talk through that a little bit later. That's all part of the journey to Replay, and got fascinated, with Web3. While we've been kind of an investor for a while, really fascinated by the prospects of building a business in the space. Maybe 8-9 months ago, started taking it seriously. Took a while to convince Krish to take it seriously. But once he started, we were kind of all in and moving forward. I
gotta ask on that. Clearly, you guys were Web 2. You were right there at the birth of Web 2, kind of trying to figure out the same feelings of where are we? What's the technology going to be? I mean, when the iPhone came out, it's hard to imagine today, but we were like, oh my God, did they put a touchscreen on that thing? Like, why would they do? Oh my God, why? There's no buttons. I mean, It really was like, it was that like hurtful. Like listen, they do a lot of weird things, but that was like the first time that we're like, don't they care about us? Like, why would they make that phone? I mean, now, right. But are you seeing any of the same symbiotic things right now? Between Web 2 and kind of where we sit in Web 3, where like I'm sitting here with these like stupid, hardware wallet things going like, why?
Why are we working so hard to make this work? Right. I think that, I think in that previous wave, we were thinking a lot about advertising and digital advertising, and then mobile came up as an opportunity, and very quickly it morphed from, are we monetizing these kind of I don't know if you remember, they were called WAP pages at the time, right? I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
they were mobile web pages that needed to be monetized, and the experience was just horrible for everyone involved. And then you saw the mobile games industry kind of emerge, which is actually really interesting because it's obviously games that are really driving a lot of Web3 activity again. But once mobile apps were really embraced, I think after that first launch of the iPhone with 500 apps, and realizing that these were going to have to become businesses and going to have to build a revenue model that's sustainable. That's kind of when we leaned in, obviously, and figured out our path and building, in-app ads and all that kind of stuff to support a healthy monetization ecosystem. And I think the same thing is happening now. I mean, Kedric, you might have an interesting point of view on this as kind of a leader in the DeFi space, but you kind of have, this whole set of early adopters, and now you have lots and lots of really crazy and interesting ideas emerging around Web3. But you're gonna have to find ways to build sustainable businesses, and we're just trying to, with Replay, we're trying to carve off a very specific niche that we think we have a pretty good understanding of and apply. Further to that point, I mean, I think it's just, again, it's mobile. Was a no man's land in 2007, 2008. Everyone said every next year was going to be the year of mobile. That was kind of a really interesting time to just experiment and try new ideas. And then the industry that we know today is now, I don't know, at this point, hundreds of billions of dollars worth of advertising that flows through those pipes today. And I think Web3, I would say the only comparison, I guess, that I can draw to it is it feels like no man's land all over again, the Wild West. Every idea is being tried, and every idea will try. It feels like it's happening faster now. Maybe it's because there's more social media to amplify it, but it's just rapid experimentation. It's super, super exciting, I think, for anyone that's an entrepreneur.
I'm glad to hear you talk about the speed of which, I went full time last year in the space. And at this point, I feel like, it's been about 5 years minimum. Like I've never seen any asset class that moves at this speed. And anyone who sits there and says, oh, well, you haven't seen this or that, like you get weekends, you get nights, like this thing never sleeps. It never stops, and it's, yeah.
Right. It's scary when you step away from a project in this space for a couple of days. And that's kind of,
yeah. I mean, the world dynamically changes, but
yes.
But Krish, nice to meet you, sir. I'm glad that he was able to convince you. Not, we'll see where the future leads, but certainly, welcome to the game.
Thank you for having us, and it's really an honor, and it is my first time as well, being in a podcast. So it's a good experience, I would say. So a little bit of myself, and I will explain why Dan took a bit to convince me also. But so my background, so I've been, like Dan mentioned, I've been an entrepreneur since the beginning. I mean, ever since I graduated, there's nothing else that I could think of but to start my own thing and follow my passion. I feel like that's what drives me as a human being, and just that's what drives me in life. So our first company together was Mojiva, and my background's more on the engineering side and more on the technology side. So at that time, I used to program and code in like 15 different programming languages. I was pretty fascinated by coding, and I was able to kind of build. I was excited to build like the initial products. And kind of really disrupt the market. And I feel like, as Dan mentioned, when we got in, the iPhone just came out. It was a kind of exhilarating to kind of build something that or create something that never existed before, or, and that's what kind of really drives me. So I've held on to kind of CTO and chief of product roles at Mojiva, at Motion, and then over at Unreal as well, more on the CTO side. Just kind of architecting and building products from core. I feel like I have a knack for kind of visualizing what I want to build and really act upon it. So that's what I like to do. And with blockchain and Web3, obviously we all kind of, I mean, I feel like I invested a little bit, back in 2013. In Bitcoin, but that was it. Like I never really paid attention to it. Being an engineer, I mean, it's hard to kind of keep track of so many new technologies that are coming in and stacks and things like that. So you're just kind of focused on what you're doing, and you don't really pay attention to the others. And it was fascinating for sure, but I've never really had a chance to really look at it. Dan talked about it for years. Actually, it was not even for the last 9 months. It was for years. It's like, you got to think about crypto and
what we're going to do
yeah,
in this
and
space.
I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
I know, it's just a thing. It's just like what people talk about. And this was a few years ago, obviously. And then obviously, I would say 9 months ago, when we really got serious into it, and the reason why we got serious into it was I started at least finally taking a breather and like learning about the inner workings of the on the engineering side of blockchain. And I was truly fascinated by it, just from I started getting into the history of it. I started getting into why it was conceptualized, and how it was actually engineered to be decentralized from the get-go. Just kind of reinvented like what I thought about technology in general. So I really got passionate about it, and I started diving deeper. And then that's when I reached out back to Dan and said, Dan, we gotta really embrace this. I think this is a calling almost. The applications are endless, but obviously what we bring to the table and our experience in the monetization and the video space really brought us together with Replay, and we look forward to talking more about it in detail.
No, I love hearing that, and it's one of those things that when it
Yeah,
clicks, everything
everything
changes. And I had just yesterday a Web2 product development specialist that was in my office, and he's like, here's my new project, here's what I'm building, and gorgeous, beautiful, is absolutely fabulous, and 90% of it is rolling through S3 and various Amazon services. And I said, it's just dead. Because at any point they can decide they no longer like your business model. They no longer want this portion of your clientele, or a country can quite simply say, we're not into it anymore. And that's a dynamic change. And so when you see that click and you go, well, why do I have all this when I can do 10
Yep,
times more over here? And I don't have to ask permission
exactly.
from anyone. If someone uses it, if somebody likes it, they'll use it. If they don't, then
Yes.
they'll go somewhere else. So I love hearing it. And then we got, did
No,
you
I
have
was, I
something
was,
else?
I was gonna, I was agreeing with you, and that's exactly what got me fascinated, because everything we were doing, from like, from a product development perspective, like storage, streaming, how you communicate, like everything, can be disrupted, right? So, and it kind of I had almost this adrenaline, like, oh my gosh, like, it's just that's why I was like, we need to embrace this fully. But yeah, anyways, I just agreed.
No, I love it, love it, love it. Kedric, sir, how are you doing?
Good, Jay. How are you,
Good.
man?
I will throw the disclosure out. I do know Kedric very well. He runs DeFi Masterclass, which majority of our members have gone through, and he gets incredibly high remarks for his knowledge of the DeFi space, overall cryptocurrencies and blockchains. That being said, that's as much of a relationship as we have, and good to see you, sir.
Yeah, thanks very much, man. Appreciate it. So I'm a close advisor for Replay, and I got so kind of I know the guys from back in Mojiva days. So kind of 2008, 2009 is when I actually met them for the first time. Actually, I think you guys were
Yeah.
doing a talk at like a Dolby Digital thing, and I think I went to introduce myself. But I was actually at a partner company called Samato at the time, which is a different mobile advertising network, and we ended up partnering, doing a lot of business together. Ended up kind of forming a friendship with the guys, and saw how well they executed, and saw how quickly they were able to grow Mojiva into a quite successful company in the space, and a real powerhouse. And so, I've always been, whenever you come across entrepreneurs that can execute and actually pull things off, it always catches your attention. And so inevitably, we've kind of been friendly and kind of kept up to date for some time. When they came to me and kind of shared the concept, as I said two things. I said, you'd be crazy not to do this, and two, can I invest? Because I when you have the mixture of different components of team, and I won't get into it, but why I think this is an interesting opportunity. It's for me at least, it was a no-brainer. And so kind of a little bit more on background. So appreciate the introduction, Jay. Yeah, I'm a co-founder of DeFi Masterclass, and we have live cohort-based learning where we teach people about decentralized finance and yield farming. And really, DeFi, by the way, is a subset of Web3. And so, I'm fascinated by this kind of decentralized value creation, something that we talk about in the class. And that's been really great and an awesome platform to help bring people into this space. Prior to DeFi Masterclass, I was co-founder of a company called Unblockable, which was kind of our shtick was we were trying to be able to bring sports memorabilia onto the blockchain. So, a Tom Brady card brought onto the blockchain. And utilizing kind of that dynamic coupled with kind of the functionality, trying to build in functionality behind the NFTs, which I think is really, really the future of this stuff, was kind of our inspiration for that. And that was back in 2018. We ended up raising some venture money for it. And we were kind of you mentioned kind of failure stories. Well, I'll mention a failure story right now. So we were so we had a lot of prominent advisors, former athletes on our actual team, very prominent sports advisors. And we were going head to head with Dapper Labs for it was us and Dapper Labs for the NBA licensing rights. They got the deal, good for them. And they rolled out NBA Top Shots and I think they've been wildly successful with that, obviously. Horseshoes and hand grenades.
Yeah,
right?
I don't count that as a failure, man. That at least you had the chance. I mean, at least you had the foresight.
Yeah.
And so, here you are. And again, it's never a matter of, the risks you take. It's the one you don't.
Yeah. Well, what I really appreciated about that is it really opened up my eyes to the possibilities of NFTs and how NFTs are, and one of the reasons why I'm so excited about what Replay is doing in terms of their utilization of NFTs and how the NFTs are so much more than, we're so excited because we have art NFTs, and that is super cool. And I think that's super compelling, but NFTs are a container. We haven't even fully imagined how this technology is going to be implemented. And some of the stuff that these guys are doing around NFTs is one of the reasons why I'm so excited about this, because I think it's we're talking about decentralized value creation, disrupting old businesses. NFTs are a key component on being able to make that future a reality. And so, with that, I'll stop talking, but that's kind of, at least a sampling of why I'm excited about what's going on.
Kedric, one thing we can add to your background is that you might have actually been the person that got Krish over the edge. So, because I was, we were thinking hard about Replay, but when we connected, we both got to Austin, and you got Krish on the phone, I think that helped push him over the edge. So we'll add that to your background from now on.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Perfect. So as we move into the next section, and I really want to dive into Replay and everything you've built, but I want to preface for a few things because we do have a very wide range of people in the audience. Give what you think, and Kedric, you alluded to this, what you think it should be, because right now it's not yet been determined. So, what should this technology look like, and how should it be defined?
Kedric, you want to go first?
Sure. I mean, so I've thought about that, by the way, and it's a freaking hard question to answer, actually, surprisingly enough.
That's why I'm asking it.
The reason why it's so hard to answer is this technology is so ubiquitous in terms of its application to different ways that the economy can function, that it's hard to really anchor on one. Oh, it's this, it's that. The best way I can think of is it's just a container. It's a container for anything I hate to be so kind of like simplistic about it, but it's such a tool that will be utilized in such ways. It's a container for anything that is not fungible. So assets that are not fungible, right? Reputation that's not fungible. Like all these things that you haven't even imagined get kind of put into this container and allow for the individual to be able to gain a lot of power. because of the fact that, so we're talking again, and I sound like a broken record, like decentralized value creation, decentralized participation in this kind of new world of Web3. And the NFT is the horse that we're riding on into that new future. Okay, so that's in the application is just wide ranging. So that's kind of my perspective on it, because it's really tricky, Chris, the question to answer.
I mean, my view, I mean, and mine is probably a more simplistic view because I don't have as deep a DeFi background. I mean, it's an easily exchangeable proof of ownership, right? That can be, in our view, and the way at least we're thinking about it with Replay, that can be fractured into many, many pieces. So it allows the ability for any one person or group of people to own something together and act upon it. And I think that is where all, many interesting use cases are imagined, right? So I truly, and again, I mean, this is, when Kedric first told me about Unlockable several years ago, when he dove off on that, it drove off on that adventure, obviously years before anyone understood NBA Top Shot. And not being a sports memorabilia collector myself, I simply did not understand it, right? But I understood that Kedric understood it and believed in that. And then even looking at the earliest days of Top Shot, when that started to come to market and get some adoption, you started to understand, okay, like if I really believe in something, this is a new way to own it. And then you look at kind of the evolution of some of the ideas that are being born and created now. And for me, it's like, okay, so I get it. Now with this thing, lots of us can buy things together, own it together. I can trade in and out of it when and where I feel like it. I could do it anonymously or not anonymously. So it just for me, it's an easily exchangeable proof of ownership. I think
love it.
Yeah.
Chris, did you want to tack anything onto that?
I wanted to add a few things, like just from my perspective. Like I look at it as more of obviously I agree with Kedric and Dan, but I look at it more of as an authentication mechanism, right? Right. It's to expand on that proof of ownership concept, right? So obviously today, you have Facebook login or login with Facebook, login with whatever LinkedIn, right? When you're when you're going into different applications that prove that you are actually an authenticated member. They're all, obviously authenticated by a central authority. And in this case, it's something that everybody kind of just trusts but don't trust. Like it's decentralized, right? That yes, this guy is the true owner of this thing, right? And he's allowed to access whatever they need to access, right? Or whatever benefits that they need to get. So I think that proof of ownership authentication layer is what I look at NFT as, right? And it's something that everybody agrees on, like the common people agree that, it is a trustless system of authentication. So, yeah.
Perfect. And I appreciate you guys humoring me on this, because a lot of times we have NFT projects that come on that don't have your level of expertise to actually understand the underlying technology. So I wanted to take a second and really utilize that. And I also want to throw out just another asterisk, which is NFT is a very overused word. A lot of these quote unquote NFTs are actually not they're actually fungible tokens. They're still able to be manipulated and altered by the contract holder. And so I always like to be very clear that something's not non-fungible until everything is frozen and the contract of which allows that to be done. So, as we talk through this, there's times that you can deploy an NFT in its wrapper and everything else, but be able to make changes based on updates to your system and everything else, which would, again, add some fungibility to it. Even if you still own it, it's still been deployed. Generally, we don't see that, but there's a lot of misinformation out there. And I just want to make sure it's clear that, whenever you're looking at any NFT or anything else, really understanding the base code of this is still really relevant because we're that early in the space.
Yeah, absolutely.
That being said, let's hear about Replay.
All right.
For sure.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Dan, you good to start?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Replay is a content tracking and payment protocol that's powered by the blockchain. And, just by way of background, I mean, we talked about our previous experience in the past, but, I'm not sure if you're a cord cutter, a cord never, if you have a Roku at home, an Android TV, or if you still subscribe to cable. So there are many people going through that evolution today, but the OTT world and the world of cord cutters is where we spent a lot of time over the last 5 years. To think about just basically that space, and Jay, some of the things you mentioned earlier around, building a business in someone's backyard. When we started our previous business, Unreal, content creators were, building giant businesses in YouTube's backyard, right, and risking being deplatformed, doing all of these other things. And our kind of as we built an OTT publishing platform, we've obviously over the years helped power and create hundreds of streaming channels, dozens of streaming apps that ultimately were hitting kind of millions of consumers across the board. But there was this kind of common issue that occurred every single time any one of them wanted to launch and program their video library with content. It's like, what is this thing going to be about? It's the same, kind of think about kind of the iPhone moment. You have 500 apps and then you have a million, right? You're going to have many, many more apps and content containers for people to consume, but how do they ultimately get content on there that's relevant to their audience? So we found that licensing content today comes oftentimes with very, very silly barriers, right? So it's, there are minimum payments up front. Krish, if you want to flip to the kind of next slide, there are minimum payments, and really at the end of the day, what we find is oftentimes content owners aren't really being compensated fairly because of a variety of friction points and restrictions that exist in the space. Krish, do you want to talk through it?
Talk through it. Yeah. So as Dan alluded earlier, effectively, our experience of launching streaming services has yielded that when content owners license, or when we license content from content owners, there's a lot of friction around how that process actually works today. There is literally no standard for delivering video and then recording revenue and royalty payments across the board. So, for example, if I take a movie from a content distributor or a studio, license it and publish it on my streaming service, that whole process end to end is very fragmented in terms of how much they're getting paid, how often the users have consumed the content, and what actually needs to be accommodated. Like, who are the stakeholders that are involved between the end user playback and then the actual content owner content being played. So today, a lot of it is rev share based as well. So when obviously there are some licenses that we do that are upfront, and there's some that are on a monthly licensing kind of model when we were licensing movies. But predominantly, a lot of our libraries that we've been working with in the past have been rev share based. And with rev share based, I mean, it's frictionless. It's easy to work through that agreement, but to understand revenue attribution to consumption, and then paying the content owners what they truly deserve, is a very, very manual process.
And maybe the core of it, the succinct version is you get paid 6 or 9 months from now at best for a video play that occurs today. Yeah. That's probably the best way to sum up the problem.
That's correct.
And probably through a very large number of intermediaries.
Yes,
that will all take their piece.
Exactly.
And more importantly, you don't have any visibility into like, okay, like you say that I've generated 1 million views and I've generated this much money, but there's no way for me to know that is the actual number, because you're basically relying on the numbers that you were provided with. And today, big platforms and the way they work with content owners, I mean, they literally send them Excel sheets on a monthly basis or on a quarterly basis, right? Mm-hmm. Here's how much your content has been, has performed, and here's how much money you're going to get paid. And then you might get paid in 6 months or 9 months or whatever. So it's, of course, content owners get into a cycle of, like a payment cycle that they're okay, or they're comfortable, that they're kind of comfortable with, but it's still, they're not really, they're kind of just like accepting the fact right now. Effectively, that's what's happening right now. And we want to kind of, we want to kind of take an attempt to solving this problem effectively with replay. So I want to expand a little bit more. So today's process as a content creator is fairly complex. Obviously, YouTube makes it easy. You just go to YouTube, upload. The more users watch, you're going to get a check at the end of the month. I think they're probably the most seamless in that sense. However, you don't have full visibility into like if you truly are getting the revenue that you deserve. There's a few questions around that, I would say. They do provide visibility.
Well, and
Yeah.
to also, yeah, and to add some color on there, that's not the only issue with a centralized service like YouTube. The issues is also, will they
Yes.
allow it? Are they going to change the
Yes.
rules on you? And really playing, with the number of things. So clearly the problem you're solving here is more than just a revenue stream.
Yeah, it really is. We really want to take the side of the content owner, the content creator, and the consumers, and that's what we're trying to solve for, or provide more visibility, more transparency. There, obviously, outside of YouTube, we work with a lot of content owners that are experimenting and actually not just experimenting, we actually do a lot of business with other streaming platforms outside of YouTube, and that process isn't easy as well. There's a lot of steps that they need to take. Get an OVP, implement a pre-transcoding framework. I don't want to get into the technicalities, but I just want to show you that there's a lot of steps they need to take before actually getting their content available for consumption on an end, direct-to-consumer platform.
Go ahead. And just to add one more thing is you as you mentioned, there are lots of folks, Jay, that have their hands in the pot, right, across the way. And so our approach to this, and I think Krish, if you want to flip to the next slide, our approach to this is, you want to create an ecosystem that levels the playing field and creates incentives for all parties. And all parties in the ecosystem we've imagined with Replay are the content creators, the content consumers, right, and the content distributors. So we create a value exchange for all of those participants. And the way that we are approaching it with Replay is a content tracking and payment protocol with its own token that sits on the blockchain. And the benefit, obviously, there is that you can track content usage and playback in real time on a distributed ledger. There's full transparency across basically any stakeholder as they license content and it gets delivered through this ecosystem. It massively simplifies the workflow, for the creator or the content provider, whether it's the creator or just the content owner. And maybe most importantly, from a vision standpoint, it's agnostic, right? So it's offered as an SDK to any delivery platform so that you can allow content creators and consumers to ultimately drive the adoption of this thing throughout the content delivery ecosystem.
Yeah. I do want to mention one important thing. We've taken decentralization obviously is critical in all aspects. There's tracking, there's payments, and there's actual streaming as well. We've actually partnered with a crypto platform called Theta Labs that's been around for the longest for a while in the industry, solving the aspect of decentralized streaming. So they're effectively a CDN on the blockchain, and they've built applications for live and video on demand as well. So we actually they're actually one of our early partners and backers for Replay, and we are actually building this tracking platform on the Theta blockchain itself. So it's going to be offered as a TNT20 token, and I think it was very important to be in that ecosystem where we're able to offer kind of that decentralized streaming aspect and adding the Replay layer, which is the tracking and payments protocol for licensing content.
TNT20. What?
It's just an ERC20 type token, but it's on the Theta blockchain. Theta blockchain is also Ethereum fork, effectively.
Okay, so Ethereum based, but you're on a fork. Hopefully that's helping you a little bit with gas
It
fees.
helps significantly with gas fees. And Theta is the core, I would say, the main net blockchain for our tracking technology, and it also enables us to be in that ecosystem of content delivery, which is what we're going for. And we work with the similar clients, and we want to offer this as a joint kind of a solution, right? To effectively streamline what I have as the next slide is to effectively streamline the whole workflow, right? We want to be able to work with content owners, studios, and be like, hey, like we want to get your content on the decentralized world, both on the streaming side, on the payments and tracking side, and then enable distribution across different, direct to consumer or other platforms, and more importantly, solve the tracking and the payments like workflow, right? We want to give them full transparency. They'll be able to see everything, right? Because we record the consumption on the blockchain, on the ledger, and we also in real time transact. Usage, consumption-based usage. Distributors are going to be able to pay the content creators, the consumers, all the stakeholders in real time. So we're trying to take that approach to really solve the core issue by offering a kind of an end-to-end solution in the market.
So real quick, just as a pause there, you very clear direction, very clear, mission. Where are you at today? Where's this? Is it? Have you written the code? Or
right now we're in the process. We're in the process of. So we've written the wrapper technology code, and we're in the process of applying the the mainnet blockchain, which is the Theta blockchain, and we're hoping to launch in mid-March is our kind of target goal to launch the protocol. And the way we're doing it is that actually leads to our next point. The way we're doing it is obviously Replay it's a technical protocol. It's an SDK. It's an API. But the way we want to demonstrate it is we want to launch our own content distribution platform to be able to showcase end-to-end an end user experience, right? So we want to be able to. We've already licensed and partnered with studios and content partners in the industry just by way of our experience and our relationships that we've acquired in the past 5 years, and we want to be able to build Replay Now that would be offered across all TV, mobile, desktop, and it would be a very simple, easy to use streaming, just a traditional movie, TV show, episodic kind of view playback, also with live linear channels. But the idea is that everything is going to be powered by Replay's core wrapper technology. So that way we're able to kind of demonstrate, how this protocol actually works in like an actual environment. But
a live environment where we can tune and begin to understand all the incentives required to make the ecosystem work for other distributors.
Exactly. Our goal is to have it adopted by every content distribution platform out there. We want to prove it with kind of our own. And the way we're doing it for our own is kind of our previous company, Power, which recently got acquired. We effectively, it's a white label streaming stack, which allows us to build streaming services very quickly. So that was a stack that I built, my team built with Dan. We're partnering with them with Power, now Bit Central, effectively to build out Replay Now, incorporating Replay's core technology, the tracking technology on the blockchain, and offer that as an end-to-end consumer, direct-to-consumer streaming service.
So this is, clearly video streaming is mainstream. We do it all day long. We're doing it right now. What's your stack currently look like? Because there's a lot of things that blockchain can do, and there's a lot of things that it can't do. And storing large volumes of streaming data is just not one of them.
Yeah. So streaming data is actually all handled by Theta. So Theta, that's why we partnered with them and we're so close with them. So Theta is kind of our streaming platform. So all our content that we ingest in our platform and transcode into the appropriate renditions. Everything is done by Theta and is hosted on the peer-to-peer edge network that Theta offers. Where our blockchain piece comes in is the wrapper technology, specifically this part right here, the right here, like this part right here. This is our replace core wrapper. All we do is we wrap all digital streams that are coming out of Theta with our tracker. It's literally a simple tracker, and all it is it calculates, how much a user has actually consumed and who they are, who the consumer is, who the content distributor is, and who the content owner is. And we know each of their kind of wallets, I guess you can say, and we effectively distribute the currency in real time.
But the key point to highlight there, and Krish, sorry for interrupting. Apologies for that. But the key thing there is, and this is the core piece of replay that got us excited, and I think got Kedric excited too, was if you can track a piece of content accurately and then ultimately create an entire ecosystem built on usage based consumption of content. Like if you think about it in the OTT ecosystem at large, you have tons of ad supported services, and then you have tons of subscription services, and people are already talking about, I've got too many of these things to figure out, like how do you introduce a usage based model, right? Like people get really, really frustrated and they turn subscriptions on and off and they share passwords, and there's all these kind of crazy problems on the consumer side. And on the content creator side, you have this whole different set of problems, which is, do I want to put my stuff exclusively in one place for many, many years for some upfront payment, which I don't really understand well enough? Or do I want to put it everywhere on a rev share basis and hope I'm being paid fairly? So we view the protocol as the intersection of those two things, of the kind of content creators' frustration in how to manage their business, and the consumer frustration of like, do I want ads or do I want subscriptions? There must be some better middle road, right? That's where those things meet. But what's really great is if you can track that usage appropriately, then you can kind of birth all these really innovative models. And I think we have kind of our next slide on it, but really, the goal again, is to go to market with a general market streaming service that showcases great content and is on par with many things you see out there. But the difference is you have incentives for the consumer as well as the creator and the distributor that are tied to the usage of these pieces of content. And in the beginning, like we're talking simple stuff, like we talked about NFTs earlier in our conversation here. There's opportunities, as Krish alluded to create like authentication, right? So access to content. NFTs might be able to do things like turn off ads or never have to watch an ad, right, in their life if they're a holder of an NFT on this platform. You can do all sorts of things. You can incentivize people to create playlists, for instance, and incentivize the curation of content in new and interesting ways. And the thing that I'm personally most excited about, outside of gating and some of maybe the very obvious NFT concepts we've all seen, are kind of this concept of SNFTs, right? So in our world, we think that if you can accurately and in a trustless way prove that a certain piece of content has been watched for a certain piece of time, an NFT holder might also be able to be compensated for the revenue that content holder has. So a studio might not have to sell its entire catalog or stock in its company, or an individual filmmaker doesn't have to sell 75% of their movie. They could maybe sell a lifetime royalty share of that movie, and we could interact with those things in new and different ways. That's what we're really excited about here. We think there's, when we think of Replay, the content tracking and payment platform, we also think that we're basically building a content economy that has completely new and emerging use cases that we probably haven't thought of yet. But we're really excited.
So when you're, we're listen, I love disruption to industries, and this is one that definitely needs disruption because, I mean, it went from like, great, we have Netflix to now, like last night I'm scrolling through my Apple TV, and I've been a cord cutter probably over probably over 15 years now. I mean, a long, long time, really early, just absolutely hate, terrestrial TV. But I'm apped out. I can't I want to watch this show. I got to go have this app. I got to have this subscription. It's causing me to, it's been great. I watch so much less TV because I just no longer can keep track of bouncing back and forth in between these normal shows. So what are the big guys now? What are they saying?
From what point of view?
How are they receptive to this idea? And who's kind of been your MVP to launch?
Yeah. So again, I mean, I think rather than try and sell, so I guess the way we've approached this market is like, rather than try and convince some large existing streaming service that has a large existing business that they need to change the way that they do things, we have to kind of prove it out, right? Which is why we're launching our own service. Where we've been successful is in recruiting content creators, content owners, and distributors that are experiencing the problem and that are, inherently inundated on a daily basis by the hundreds and thousands of apps and distributors out there that want to carry their content, saying, how am I going to keep track of all this, right? I charge some folks $500 a month to access my content. I give it to others for free. Someone else offered me 20 grand. It's all over the place.
Yeah, an average.
So what we're saying is, let us prove to you that this is something that's going to help. And obviously, the way that we envision helping them and why they ultimately buy into the pilot is, we will do one thing that no one else does, which is pay them in real time in our play.
Yeah, and on average, a content owner or library holder works with 25 plus different endpoints, you can say, right? And imagine the kind of the complexities and the effort required to keep track of payments and reporting and all of that stuff across these boards. So that's the problem, where that's the gap we're trying to solve for, is kind of helping streamline the content owner side. Yes, you're right. There are many different apps out there, and the content's kind of everywhere, and there's too much going on. But the problem is, I think there's still a problem. There's still a gap on the content owner side, on the reporting and the payment side, that we want to tackle first and solve for. And our economy, our approach is to build a protocol that any streaming platform out there would embrace it. Obviously, there's benefits for embracing this protocol, even on the streaming platform side. They're going to be having the ability to, it's just going to be easier for them, right? Because they don't have to send out reports and manual tracking things and payments. I mean, that's like a whole audit that they're doing that they can totally avoid, because this technology would effectively do that for them.
And we think, like anything else, I think consumers and content holders have to drive this here, and so we're trying to kind of find the right incentives to align the content owners that are producing the stuff, the consumers that are watching it, by paying them back effectively for their time, and then ultimately kind of introduce this new element of patrons and investors that can come in along the way and participate in the success. So I think, if you get enough pressure from consumers to offer a usage-based model, or you find a place that offers a usage-based model, those consumers that have an interest in that will go there. On the other side, if you have enough pressure from content creators that want to get paid in a more transparent and a real-time way, they'll put pressure on other places to adopt the standard. And then obviously there is, included in our tokenomics and all that, that kind of part of the work that we're doing and kind of trying to align the incentives, is the, kind of acquisition and incentive of, to other existing services to bring them on board, and building this brick by brick.
So a quick question, and this is again for my own education. You guys have clearly done this before in a Web2 sense. So you understand the metrics of this, you understand the economics of this much better than I do. My question in and around this is, the economical engine behind content is not the only reason why someone chooses a streaming service or someone utilizes one service over the other. And while I'm unfamiliar with Theta's streaming platform and what they're able to do, are they able to deliver on demand content that matches a current CDN right now type experience of delivering 4K content anywhere in the world anytime?
Yeah, exactly. And that's their mission statement. That's their core. Absolutely. Yeah. Theta.
Can they do it in March when you launch?
Yes, they can. And that's the idea. Yeah. And they already are well established. They've been doing this for almost 5 years now. They're pretty well established CDN, and obviously continuously making improvements to their stack. But they do it for live today. They do it for VOD on demand, and we're gonna incorporate that into our protocol for sure. If we're the ones delivering the streams, our technology works with really any stream, right? We're obviously agnostic, right? We can take a stream from a content owner that's 4K. That doesn't have to be Theta. We can, but if we were the ones hosting and delivering in a truly decentralized way, we would offer the Theta plus replay package and effectively deliver that.
So as a decentralized protocol in an industry that I hate bringing up the word, how are you going to deal with piracy?
Yeah. Actually, so it's actually pretty awesome that you brought it up, and that's what fascinated me about Theta. I mean, they actually have a few patents around digital, they're similar to like a DRM, if you're familiar with that, like digital rights management on kind of Web2 world, and a bridge to Web3 world using their blockchain. So there's elements of encryption, and there's elements of protection that the core blockchain offers that is super critical, especially when we are licensing premium content on our platform. So yes, I mean, that's why our partnership with Theta is so important, is because we're able to offer that, both the protection, the encryption, the delivery, the decentralization, the tracking, the payments, all kind of in one simple package for the content owner, so they don't have to worry too much about all of these complexities when it comes to delivering media on the internet.
Just to add to that, I think one of the reasons why I'm also so excited about kind of what these guys have built is, yes, the product itself is going to be top notch and be able to offer that comparable type experience in terms of viewing experience, along with the content that they've lined up already is super impressive. But simultaneously, they're embracing the ethos of Web3, which is this idea that, and the guys are touching on it, but like the fact is, they're looking at where are the different contributors to this ecosystem. Okay, well, there's the content producers. Well, through their technology, they're going to be able to ensure that they're paid more effectively and have access to more distribution, easier, more seamless distribution. Unless you're a very big content producer, distribution is still a pretty big challenge. The viewers, you are adding value when you come and watch television or watch content, and so you should be compensated accordingly. And so, the fact that you are going to be paid in tokens to come and watch television is something that's pretty unique in terms of what else is offered there. And so, again, embracing the Web3 ethos of like Web2 is not paying you, you're paying them. However, they're not recognizing the value that you add as a viewer. And so to be able to one, enjoy amazing content while simultaneously getting paid for it is pretty compelling. And I fully support their go-to-market. I mean, a lot of people would normally look at this and say, well, you're building this ecosystem and then you've got this all free to this kind of direct-to-consumer component. But the fact is, the guys kind of glance over it because they've done this for so long. But that's effectively a layup for them because of the fact that they've already executed a successful business that's been acquired in the traditional Web2, OTT space. They're just incorporating and leveraging Web3 crypto economics to solve some of the key problems that this industry has experienced. And so, I think it's a pretty compelling go to market. It's one of the reasons I'm so excited to be kind of involved in this project.
Yeah, no, and I'm going to give you guys a couple bonus points. To date, I've seen a single token, and you have a variety of NFTs, but again, those are remain to be seen. But we're still back to a single token and really relatively simplistic. And I've listen, you guys know that this is coming to the space. It's clearly this is. I've seen a number of these pitches. Yours is just candidly the simplest and cleanest that I have seen. I've seen some that have tried to incorporate some amazingly complex DeFi protocols that even you, Kedric, would probably be like, why is there 4 different tokens? Why is there 3 different chains? Why what do we don't need it to be like this. So I really do give you guys the first glance at this. It is clean. It's simplistic. You're relying on partners of Theta, and clearly they have a vision. And like I said, I'm my own ignorance of that chain is not any reflection of this project overall. But I really want to make sure you guys can hear that this is a very clean go-to-market strategy done by an experienced team. Where's kind of right now the unknowns? I mean, clearly we're early. This is not something that's going to take over the world, tomorrow. I'm sure you'd love it if it did, but adoption is going to take time and understandings, and the chains still need to be built out and fleshed out. How many nodes is Theta running right now?
So they have 100,000 plus nodes now. They call them the similar edge nodes.
Okay.
And they have partnerships with some of the leading, prime traditional CDNs as well to compensate.
Yeah. Okay. So they're doing
like a hybrid CDN until they get fully kind of off them. But which I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. So. And in terms of unknowns, I mean, you're right. I mean, it's obviously, we're embracing this. We're early. We do have experience building it in the Web2 world, and we look at this as a Web3 bridge almost to get us there. This whole concept of consumption-based, payments, is fairly new to the.
That's a real unknown.
That's
right?
a real unknown. Yeah. So whether it is.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I would say we've seen, kind of micropayments for editorial content on the web, right? That's rarely executed very well, right? So we're thinking through how you execute, kind of usage-based content. Obviously, I mean that is truly an unknown, but we think there's, we've often been early. We've been early in other projects, but I think that. The actual necessity for that piece of it, kind of stemming back to what I spoke about earlier, that intersection of kind of ad fatigue, subscription fatigue, there's got to be a better way. I think there's a good amount of demand for that, right? And so solving that, and the best way we know how is again, bringing a strong general market content offering in front of people that says, you get to watch this in this new way, and then we'll have to tweak and understand the incentives from there. But that's an unknown, and I think it's that's probably the hurdle we'll have to cross. Go ahead.
Yeah, I've got to ask the question because we've talked a lot about content creators, and I think the allurement has been a lot of the big guys, the big players, the big production, and you haven't touched on too much of the individual content creator. The podcaster, or in some cases, let's just go ahead and say the porn industry, which is clearly, usually whoever they choose is the ultimate winner, Betamax versus VHS. Do you have any? Are you open to any and all industries, any and all creators, or you just want to work?
I think I think you have to be, right. So again, I mean, just going back, 5-6 years, I think. We looked at deplatforming and demonetization happening on some of the big video aggregators, out of the gate, let alone the content type and just not being welcome. We win, or collectively our community wins, if this is a standard that's adopted as a point of payment and a point of, an economy for incentivization for kind of these various legs of the stool, the investor, the creator, the distributor. across all industries, right? And I think you're right. Whatever the future video experience looks like that solves that kind of, multi-app search thing. Like, I don't think any of us have imagined what that next thing is yet, or maybe some people have started to imagine it. But our goal is to provide the kind of payment platform of record for that space. The experiences people build on top of it, we want them to take what we're building and run with it.
Run with it, yeah.
Clearly, you guys have developed this code, and this is not a first-time project, not even a second-time project. This is your mature team at this point. You understand the industry, you understand the resources, but you do have a new partner in this, and that's Theta. And they are really, again, an emerging player in a very large field, just like yourselves. So tell me about kind of what you know about where they're at and what their plans are kind of in the near-term future.
For sure. So, at a high level, Theta is, they're a next generation video and entertainment blockchain. They're basically building a decentralized live streaming platform. And so, early days of this project, right, or the very beginning of this project, we looked at, who are the folks that are in this space that are building interesting things that, either look like what we're doing or, or can support what we're doing. So we reached out to them because it kind of, as Krish alluded to earlier, we wanted kind of a Web3 native product and to embrace as much as we could of the space. And so, they've been kind of a really great early partner. They recently launched Theta Drop, their NFT marketplace, with crazy partners like World Poker Tour and Katy Perry and Juke and Media. So there's some really big players in the content space that are embracing a partnership with them, and their point of view, not to speak for them, but their point of view is they're making it possible to decentralize video streaming, and they've created a system that incentivizes consumers for becoming nodes and participating in their network. And so our view is we can build our content tracking and payment protocol in partnership with them and effectively become their preferred method of content tracking and payment. So that's a partnership we're excited to announce, and there'll be supporting the project as investors as well.
Yeah, and we're also building our, as I mentioned before, we're also building on our protocol on top of their core mainnet blockchain as a TNT20 token. So we're pretty excited about the partnership, and I think the simplicity of coming together the two companies, the two projects rather, will help kind of fill the gaps that we're trying to do with content owners, consumers, and distributors. Our effective vision is to make that process simpler.
I absolutely love it, and love hearing about, again, trying to solve a lot of these are problems for not just the content creators and the viewers, but I mean, you're talking about every actor, actress, kind of playwright that's involved here. It's an entire industry related issue that if you guys can at least get a good foothold in here, could lead to some very positive changes. So I applaud you for tackling this and looking at it from a different perspective than just ads.
Yeah, yes. Yeah.
So
we've done a lot of ads.
Listen, we're not going to go down there before this thing degrades. But that being said, what else you guys seen? You're clearly, Web3 geeks. You're in around some new technologies. You're spending time in the space. What are you guys excited about right now?
It's a good question. I mean, I'll give it you, from the point of view of like just this space happening, right? I mean, I think specifically, I've seen some really, really cool projects in Web3 and video, right? I think there's a group out there. I don't know if you've seen it in the last couple of weeks. I think they launched on Christmas called Blockbuster DAO, which is aiming to buy the Blockbuster brand from Dish and bring that brand back to life. I've been fortunate to be in close contact with that group since the beginning, and they've partnered and done things with another group called the Film DAO, which is basically incubating content creation using NFTs. Like, this space is going to happen, and it's just interesting how many projects have come to life around using Web3 to fund creativity, particularly in the video space. So I'm trying to get involved in as many of those as possible and keep track of it. And I'm having a hard time just keeping track of those that are in this space that are relevant to us. I'm really fascinated by all the folks that are buying IP using NFTs as a tool to raise capital. It's really, really interesting to me.
Yeah, very cool. Krish, what you
Yeah,
see?
obviously fascinated by the technology itself, and working on Replay, I get to truly experience it from the core, I would say, as an engineer. So I'm excited to dive in. I feel like I already dove in quite a bit. I'm also, all these DAOs that Dan mentioned earlier. I've been curious about that. I haven't really understood it too well. Like, what is a decentralized organization? Like, how does that? I mean,
how will it run effectively?
How will it run effectively? Who's running it? What? Yeah, I'm skeptical, but I'm also kind of, what do you call? What's the right word? I'm trying to see if that is going to be something that would take over or actually be.
Kedric will help you get over your skepticism.
Yeah.
Listen, I can only say I've got a team of a dozen people that work on this 24/7 DAOs.
Yeah.
Both of you guys now, we clearly are seeing, we're going to see the year of the DAO. We had the ICO year, the NFT year. I think the year of the DAO is coming. And to be clear, the technology isn't the problem.
Exactly.
It's the jail time that comes with illegally raising funds.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So hence a lot of the anons that are working in this space right now. But it will. I will say 100% tokenization of investment vehicles is the future. There's just no reason to continue the SWIFT system just has to die. Like, it is the fact that our current economic model was designed over 100 years ago. Is really painful to deal with today. So I absolutely agree with both of you guys. But Kedric, Mr. DeFi, how about something non-DeFi?
So non-DeFi. Well, I'm the cool thing of kind of teaching DeFi is I do have a purview into a lot of different projects that are looking at the space. And again, DeFi is a subset of Web3, so they're not. There's a few projects that are coming out that are excited. I'm not able to talk about them yet, but are kind of traditional businesses that are, let's say, successful in a traditional sense, but are now looking at Web3 as a way to compete more effectively. And I'll leave it at that in terms of what they're thinking through. And so it's cool to kind of be able to assist and think through that. And there, I will add one project that is DeFi, but it's kind of reaching into the real world a little bit, called, and I don't know a ton about it yet. I'm still learning. So, maybe I'm talking out of my ass, but Theta is a really interesting project that is aiming towards trying to help people buy houses, buy their homes more effectively, and utilizing DeFi to lower the barrier of home ownership and access to kind of long-term housing for people, which I think is really cool and really exciting. So.
I applaud those types of protocols that are really trying to solve real world problems that are in some cases escape. You can't do it because you don't meet some arbitrary numbers thought up by somebody who does not know the personal situation and also refuses to allow peer-to-peer lending there. I really do hope, and I really do hope that in the United States, at least, that Congress and our government will understand the powers of this technology and stop what they're doing today, which is trying to essentially ban or eliminate and push offshore the developer teams and whatnot around it. So I completely agree with you that it will change the world, and home ownership should be something that is at least achievable by anyone willing to put in the work and hard. And again, timelines shouldn't be set up by that. I mean, if someone's going to rent a home for 20 years, why can't that be, if someone's willing to lease it for a lease to own, I think that should be a peer-to-peer type network and lots of things around there. So DeFi is going to change the world. We all know that. I didn't think I was going to get an NFT project or anything out of you, Kedric. So you held right on there. Guys, I got to tell you, it was a fabulous interview. I'm really excited to see Replay launch. That all being said, for people that are interested in reaching out, utilizing the product, investing in you guys, where can they reach you?
Yeah, so website is Imagine Replay, right? ImagineReplay.com, and I think we're live at hello@ImagineReplay.com, and I think all the socials match, right? Imagine Replay at Discord and everything.
Yeah, that's correct.
Love it, guys. Love it. Well, thanks so much. Hang out here for a second, but we're going to go ahead and say goodbye to everyone else. Thank you, yWhales. And to anyone interested, that was Replay. And I am excited to hopefully get to some true streaming without the 12 or 24 apps that I'm currently dealing with today. So excited to see where the future of this goes. And first podcast for a few of you. So thanks so much for
thanks,
that.
Jay. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for the opportunity.